Good evening, friends from India, and good morning to all the friends who are from the West. Good to have with us Mrs. Kanwaljeet Kaur to address on a very special topic of a cybersecurity landscape in a very practical manner. She is a fellow chartered accountant and a certified fraud examiner, and also a certified international investigator and a committee member of the PhD Chamber of Commerce, advisor to MSME India Forum, member of the Center of Audit Quality of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, an authorized faculty of GCI Cyber Investigator, and also a trainee. She has over 20 years experience in fraud detection, fraud prevention, and cyber security field. She is doing training and consulting for law enforcement, CBI, that is Central Bureau of Investigation of India, Serious Fraud Investigation Office under the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and MNCs and other banks. And she has supported them actively in fraud prevention and fraud detection. It is fantastic to have her with us today evening to share her insights on this topic. So the session is going to be an interactive one. You're open to ask questions at any point in time by raising your hand, and then we'll call out, and then we'll try to answer your questions. I also request you to provide your feedback about the session in the chat box at the end of the session. It will help us in guiding us to plan our future sessions also. Thank you all. Over to you, Kanwaljeet.
Thank you so much, Arun. Thank you so much for having me, and good evening, everyone. And good morning to people who are having a morning at their end. Since Arun has introduced, I'm a finance professional as well as a fraud investigator, been into this domain for a pretty long time. Still, I think this is a field where I'm still learning. And the more we know about frauds, whether it is cyber frauds or financial fraud, lesser it is. So it's still a journey. And today, this session is not about me only talking about certain thing. It's more about knowledge sharing. I'll be really happy to have you over the call, share your inputs. It's going to be really interactive, and I'm looking forward to interact with each one of you. So with this, let's start this particular session, which basically is going to address as to what is the increasing cyber threats we see. Cybersecurity or cyber threat is something which is absolutely a big pain area for every country. And I keep saying that fraud is country neutral, industry neutral. It can happen to smallest to the industry, smallest to the company, to the top brand. It can happen to any country, any industry, any size of the organization. So that is why it doesn't matter where we are. The nature of fraud does not change. There are certain facts which are really, astonishing. You'll be amazed to know that about 95% time when companies' data leakage happen or there is some compromise in their data security, it happens due to human error. Not many times employees do it knowingly. Most of the time employees get into this because they're negligent, because they don't understand. I'll just give a quick example on a very lighter side. Can anybody tell me what is difference between fraud and error? How do we differentiate fraud and error?
Fraud is intentional, and error is unintentional.
Absolutely. Now, on a very lighter side, so most of us as an employee use office printer and scanner for personal purpose. Or sometimes we pick up the pen from office and take home. Is it really a fraud? What do you think? It sounds very harmless, but you'll be amazed to know that asset misappropriation is the world's most frequent corporate fraud. words most frequent. The difference between two, the fraud and error, is simply an intent. So if I'm picking up pen from office and I don't know it is wrong, it's an error. Otherwise, it's fraud. So the malicious intent plays a very, very important role. The data which says 95% time, it's human error. Some of them could be negligence, an error. Some could be a fraudulent intent. Why do you think the fraudsters or people out there are interested in any company? What attracts them towards companies' data? Why cyber attack happens?
Data is money. So
one, that the hacker would be interested in the data. Second, the money could be motive. Corporate espionage is one of the very big reason that cyber attack happens, targeted towards an entity. Today, you name the biggest of the brand, and they are involved in espionage in some or other manner. And since we are into an era where we are using technology so much, these days, espionage actually happens via technology. We are using artificial intelligence. We are using latest cyber tools to get that data and misuse it. Some other fact says that every 39 seconds, there is a cyber attack. Well, I'm talking about more targeted towards entities. 43% of the cyber attacks target small business. So anybody who really thinks that cyber attacks are meant for government organization or large groups, no, that's not true. They are actually targeted towards small and medium-sized enterprises as well. Mails, which seems like a very innocent kind of way of communication. 75% time we are attacked via emails. And lastly, the Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, something which we use so frequently. These are actually the starting point from where the malicious code enters inside an organization. So these are some of the facts which are available on internet. But that gives us a point to think that how critical the cybersecurity now in an organization today. If we talk about targets, so US unfortunately tops the chart. US is considered to be the favorite choice for cyber attacks. Earlier, Asia was not considered to be a hotspot. However, things are changing now. If you talk about South Korea, Japan, and India, these are latest target for cyber attack. And New Zealand and Hong Kong are also entering in top 10 victims. These facts, well, I'm sharing just to give you an insight as to it can happen to any country. And cyber attacks are happening in almost every country today, in almost every kind of organization. But still, if we talk about the favorite choice of cyber attack, what do you think could be few industry which always be a preferred choice for a cyber attack? Anyone?
The financial industry.
Financial. Apart from that, the government organizations and healthcare. So if we talk about, let's say, bank and insurance industry, it is understandable that they have real good source of data, and of course the money is a motive. But why would somebody attack a healthcare industry? What could be the motive? It has happened in UK some time back, where it was a ransomware attack. The entire healthcare system, UK government-based healthcare system, was blocked for some time. It was classic case of ransomware. So why do you think attack happened to healthcare industry? The reason, the healthcare industry cannot be offline for a very long time. For example, if you talk about USA, everything in healthcare is linked to insurance. And that is where you have to be connected, you have to be online. That is something which hackers are very well aware of, that they cannot be offline for a very long time. And if they want to get online, they have to give ransom. That's exactly is a problem. If you talk about certain cases in India, in March 23, one of the largest healthcare of India, Sun Pharma, was attacked. And basically, they not only just steal the data, they leaked that data on dark web. Similar thing happened in another organization in Pennsylvania. And this attack was not just related to data. In fact, the hacker said that if you will not give us ransom, we will leak that data of breast cancer patients, female patient. The pictures will be online. So imagine this is the lowest of fraud we can think of. Apart from that, of course, financial institutions are a hot product for hackers always. You talk about insurance industry, banking, NBFCs, they have real good source of data. Very recently, the scam which has hit Singapore in a very wrong manner was related to business email compromise. So I'm sure most of you would be aware of what is BEC. Are you? What is business email compromise? Known as whaling attack as well. Anyone? Yes, it is phishing attack. How does it really happen? Any idea, anyone? Business email compromise.
Send a spam mail, and then
Not
once
really.
it gets opened, then I think data is collected about the email addresses from the contact list.
So here the
I'm not
modus
sure.
operandi is slightly different. It is very targeted. It is sometimes also known as spear phishing. So it's absolutely a type of phishing, but very, very targeted. Let's say if I have to target employee of ABC Limited, I'm gonna use this technique called business email compromise. So how does it really work? The first, the email ID of somebody very senior in the organization will be stolen or hacked, say CEO or a CFO. Then there will be different pretext. So the mail will be going from email ID of CEO and it will go to all employees. These days, these attacks are happening with the use of artificial intelligence. So the success rate of business email compromise is much higher than it used to be. Earlier, when hacker used to send a mail on the pretext of being a CEO, there used to be some kind of different way of communication. But thanks to AI, these days, the communication which goes to employee looks like absolutely genuine. Seems like somebody insider is talking. And in those cases, the hacker would ask employee to submit fund in a certain account on any pretext. For example, hey, I'm traveling. I need urgent money in this account for a potential acquisition. I don't have enough fund in my company account as of now. It could be anything. So business email compromise is something which is a real big pain area for companies. And since this attack happens from somewhere inside, employees are not very cautious. Even IT professionals will also not scan those mail very thoroughly because it looks like it is coming from CEO. So in Singapore, very recently in 23, a successful BC scam happened, which defrauded about 93 victims, and that amounted to $41.3 million. Similar happened to Japan, where the hackers targeted the large airlines, the US subsidiary of a media company, and of course, they have not left the manufacturing industry as well. As I said, fraud is industry neutral and country neutral. A very quick case study of Singapore once again. In this case, which again happened in 23 itself, the CEO or a hacker posed as the Sabre CEO WhatsApp employees that are need fund in that particular bank account. And imagine employee deposited that money. So most of us would believe that these kind of fraud can only happen to people who don't understand. But trust me, guys, these days the trap are really lucrative. Sometimes it's very, very difficult to say whether this is a genuine communication or not. Very practical case, I'll tell you. A day before, I receive a mail from a bank in India called ICICI Bank. When I looked at the bank mail, it was absolutely genuine. Absolute. The language, the logo, everything. The only disconnect was I don't have account in ICICI Bank. And I was wondering what is wrong in this mail. When I very closely looked at the domain, it was LCLCL, not ICICI. But isn't it something where not many people will be really careful of? In these cases, cyber attacks basically are getting smarter and smarter. And the time has come that we have to outsmart the fraudster. So our capability lies in outsmarting them. First, let's look at these cases. Probably it will give us insight what is happening around us. Few quick things about banking industry. If you talk about India, it has happened to NBFC called Fultron. Again, the data was stolen and sold on dark web. So is Bank of Australia and various part of world. Another cyber attack which is happening to bank is where they are trying to replicate the same net banking system or electronic banking system. Something very similar to farming. Seems like a genuine application, which is actually not genuine. Now, today we are here to discuss the digital transformation. And unfortunately, the digital transformation is not just happening for you and me, it is happening for the hackers as well. So let's see how people are using or misusing the technology for their own good. ChatGPT, very common thing. What exactly is ChatGPT? Can anybody tell me, please? What do we use it for? Has anybody used ChatGPT so far?
Yeah, we are tested, but we are not used it professionally.
Okay.
From my understanding, I think it is more of artificial general intelligence using large language model queries to obtain answers.
Correct. Absolutely. So, or I will put it in a very simpler term. So ChatGPT is like an assistant who will do whatever we ask the assistant to do. Of course, it's absolutely part of artificial intelligence. So it will not just tell the basic thing, it will go to advanced level. It can write an article for you. It can do a lot of stuff for you. So ChatGPT is being used by a lot of people, whether the music composer or writers or people like you and me. But then if we can use. Yes, we need sometimes, yes. But then ChatGPT sometimes can do very smart things also. But then point is that if we can use ChatGPT, why would hackers not use it? Right? So now there is one evil cousin of ChatGPT. We call them worm GPT or fraud GPT. If you, I'm not sure if ever anybody has tried to venture to dark web, but these kind of links are very easily available on dark web. Worm GPTs or a personalized chatbot is available on dark web as cheaper as $200.
Oh,
You can just buy that, customize it the way you want. And these days, criminals are using it a lot. And that is where worm GPT or fraud GPT comes into picture. So for example, gone are the days when hackers used to write the malicious code. These days, they just give few simple command to fraud GPT, and fraud GPT will create a malicious code for them, which they can easily pass it on. So technology is helping everyone. The assistant does not know what is good, what is not. We have to train the technology a bit more. But as of now, there are various variants available for Chat GPT. So this few of them known as worm GPT, fraud GPT.
but they essentially used to create codes, right?
Correct. So normally, as I said, it's in a very simpler term, it's an assistant, right? So if I ask my assistant to write a code for me, it can do that. Normally, if you go to Chat GPT and ask to do something which is not right, it might decline. It might
Right.
say, no, I'm not going to do. It's unethical. But if
Right.
you talk about codes like fraud GPT or worm GPT, you
Oh,
can customize it. It's a chatbot. Chatbot can be trained the way you want.
oh,
It's a small kid. You train the small kid the way you want. Then kid does not know what is right, what is not right. It's our task to tell what is right, what is not right. It's as simple as that. Now, if we talk about the use of artificial intelligence in phishing attack, so phishing attacks are becoming absolute smart these days. Earlier, when you used to see these kind of mail that you have won a lottery or there is a mail from IRS and so on, there used to be a lot of spelling mistakes and a lot of stuff where you could understand that this mail doesn't look genuine. But thanks to, once again, artificial intelligence, that the mails are pretty professional and sophisticated. The language they use, the communication, way of communication is very, very professional. They replicate exact same way the bank used to say send a mail or any other genuine source will send a mail. Then deep fake, I'm sure most of us would have heard about deep fake cases in very recent past. In India, if we talk about celebrity like Alia Bhatt and many other celebrity, the deep fakes are being used. So that is another thing which is supporting the hackers. And then evading detection with AI. AI is not just helping in creation of a wrong content, it is also supporting in evading. Suppose if I send a mail in an organization, the IT might block it. But with the help of artificial intelligence, the communication is replicated in a manner that it doesn't get highlighted. Sometimes IT might think it is a genuine internal mail and would not even block it. I would also share an interesting fact that 95% time employees delete spams without even informing IT about it. Why do you think it's risky? If I'm saying this as an example, what is the risk attached? So let's say you as an employee have received a mail, you thought it's spam and you're deleting it. You are not informing anyone. What is the risk here?
it is already embedded some bot inside your system. When you delete it,
Correct.
or
And IT would never know what kind of attacks are happening. What is the target? if you ask me as an investigator, I do read those mails where people offer, some kind of gifts to me, or sometime they say that, they're gonna give me all their money because they are in prison. I do read them, because unless I read them, I would not understand what is happening around. Some example how CEO are using this. Of course, not the genuine CEO. You are on mute. Today, we all are connected on Zoom. Now, with the use of artificial intelligence, I can replicate your picture, which will look like that I am stuck in between like this. And then it will hold. Then the hacker will send mails to all employees separately, or will send messages via WhatsApp that you transfer the money in this account. My account is stopped. I'm not able to speak up. I'm on mute. Either I'm on mute or I've frozen up. I'm not able to speak up. The fly on the wall, that is another strategy which happens. All these are mostly are part of business email compromise. That it's not always money which interests the hacker. It could be the crucial data of your organization which is at stake. So it could be that somebody can enter inside this meeting, can hear our conversation, and probably if we are discussing something crucial, then. So in this case, hackers enter in the meeting, steal that information, and misuse it. That is another strategy which can be used. And lastly, as I mentioned before, CEO can send WhatsApp or email that I'm very busy, I cannot call you. I'm just sending you a mail. This is a new account number. Please transfer the money. Or a fake vendor invoice will be raised that this vendor needs money in the different bank account right now. You have to just transfer it. I'm not able to access the company's fund. These could be some of the pretext. May I just request all of you to mute, please? Thank you. Now, since all of us are from finance field, many of you would be at a senior position or as a CFO. So first, let's understand who's the threat. Do we have a threat inside or outside? Outside threat is something where we can still deal with. The problem is insider threat. Because insider, we trust them so much. Couple of example like Tesla. Again in 2023. So 2 former employees of Tesla stole the employees' data. And the employees were as high as 75,000 employees of Tesla, the current and the past. And they misuse that data. Another example is of Yahoo. In this case, the proprietary information of Yahoo was sold by a person who just got an offer letter from a competitor. So IP is always a preferred target for cyber attacks. Now, since we have discussed so much about the problem, let's see how we as a finance professional can pitch in. Each time we think about cybersecurity or IT, we think that that's not the role of CFO. One, that budget approval is in hand of CEO or the board, or the CISO is the one who should worry about this. Where do you think CFO pitch in? What is our role when it comes to cybersecurity? Anyone?
We need to protect the assets. So I guess it's part of risk management also.
So we are finance professionals. Right. The money
financial control
goes from our head, right? So first we need to sit with CISO and understand the cost associated to cyber attack or the risk associated to cyber attacks. how is going to impact our production, how is going to impact our numbers. It is not just the quantitative thing which we can see today. It can be a future related issue such as reputational issue. How many potential client we can miss due to this. All this should be factored in. So CFO should definitely get involved in those kind of risk assessment. Then only you'll be able to understand what could be the cost of fraud or cyber attack. Remember, it is not just the current profit or current bank balance which is at stake. There are a lot involved in this. An attack which has happened in Apple, it was an insider attack, and the strategy was simple: to poach the employee of Apple. Now, what will they do? The employees will go out and do what? They will release the confidential data. And that could be another strategy. So when you factored in the risk, think about all kind of risk you can. And then convince the board or convince the CEO to have a better budgets looking at this. Cyber security is no longer a luxury or good to have something. It is something where you have to really seriously look into it. All your production, all your services, everything, all operation can get impacted by one single attack. We should think about it. Whether it is investing in software, hardware, any tools, even you have to think about employee education and training. When we begin this session, I said 95% time it's human error. Probably employees are not even aware what they should do, what they should not. Many times I have seen people sit in lobby, coffee shop and discuss very, a crucial matter about company. How do you know who's sitting next to you? Social engineering, a very frequently used technique for cyber attack. How does it really work? Social engineering does not only happen online, it can happen offline as well. Each time you interact with human, there is a potential that social engineering attack can happen. So next time when you go and check in any hotel and discussing any important company matter inside your room, be aware. The strategy which competitor might use could be just put bug on the wall, the next room. So if you are sitting in this room, I'm going to check in the next room. I'm going to put bug on the wall and I can listen to your conversation sitting in my room. These days, senior level employees are being trained not to discuss any such matter inside the rooms or the coffee shops or in lobbies. Be mindful. Cyber attack can happen via technology, but the starting point could be just like that. Okay. So CFO can get involved in assessing the cyber risk and resourcing the cybersecurity program. Then they have to create a robust cybersecurity defense plan. Risk is an absolute dynamic factor. I think 3 years back, nobody knew what is pandemic. Today, my 4-year-old kid knows very well. So the risk is absolute dynamic thing. You should constantly monitor your risk strategies. It's not something which you have done once and you're good with it. Keep monitoring it. Probably your strategy would not be any more effective. You might have to, add or delete few things. So keep looking at it. Keep your risk assessment live. Get involved in all those risk strategies which is pertaining to cybersecurity. It is not just role of information officers. The CFO or the finance professional should also get into it. Lastly, when there is a problem, there has to be solution. So how should we fight back? There's a in IT, there is a way to deal with it. It's called zero trust. Each time we talk about outsider attack, we are very careful. A company does a lot so that our network, nobody else from outside our network will get in. And what about people who are inside? So zero trust means do not trust anyone or anything. Each time you receive a mail or any communication, does not matter it's come from inside or outside, scan through it. This is very much part of your IT protection. So zero trust should definitely be used. Multi-factor authentication, MFA. I think most of us are doing it in a Google account or something. MFA is it's not just about just putting OTP or just giving another mobile number or something. It varies from company to company as to how many layers you want to add. It could be any very specific kind of number. For example, Microsoft can generate certain number which goes out after a few seconds. It could be any way. It's just that we have to create layers. Somebody has to really work very hard to enter inside your network. That's the idea, basically.
Could you brief more on the zero trust?
So zero trust is something where the way we design our security systems in terms of networking and something that we do not trust anything and anyone. So even if an employee has sent a mail to another employee or inside a company, there is a mail being circulated, it should be scanned through whether it looks like genuine. It's not always a vendor from outside will try and do something in your company. Also, these days, the companies are very well connected with their vendors through CRMs. Many years back, it has happened in US in Target. I'm sure many of you would be aware of. But in this case, the hackers did not enter in Target system. They actually entered in one of the vendor system, and from vendor system, they entered in Target store system and stole that data. That was long back. Today, the technology has really improved. So this can be done in a much smarter way than it was long back. So zero trust means that each time we have to think about our network security or cyber security, should not trust anyone. Doesn't matter insider or outsider.
Each communication is verified and double checked before it is permitted, or how does it work when you say
Yes.
internal mails?
So for example, the communications, for example, what kind of information employees can access. For example, an employee doesn't need access to XYZ application, but he's asking for it. Then there should be question, why do you need it when your job doesn't require it? As simple as that. So there should be multiple questions asked. Why? Zero trust. Then cybersecurity training. It seems like a very broad level, gyan kinds. However, the cybersecurity testing and training is a must. And it should not be only done for IT professional. Ideally, it should be done for entire organization, even for contractors, because you never know who can do that and who may be, getting the company into trouble with the negligence or with the malicious intent. The training program should be absolutely customized. So here, one size does not fit all. It has to be industry specific, audience specific. Today, when I'm talking to finance people, I can talk about finance. If I've been talking to engineers, I cannot use any finance related example. So we have to create a training which is not only informative, but something which people can understand very easily. Try to make it as simple as possible. So this is something which you should do. And lastly, risk assessment. As I said, risk assessment is a very continuous thing. You have to constantly monitor it. Risk is an absolute dynamic factor, whether you talk about cyber risk or any other risk. So company has to be really vigilant about it. And we as a finance professional should definitely pitch in. It's high time that we should see our role beyond analyzing the numbers. Our core would definitely be restricted to looking at balance sheet, P&L account. However, the role is expanding. When you go up in the hierarchy, the objective or the way company look at a CFO is not just to analyze the number, but also to protect the organization. And as I said, one cyber attack or any kind of fraud can cost a lot to the company. And that cost will definitely be something which will impact your P&L account. So that is from my end. And I'm open to have your questions, your input, and that's it.
Yeah, before others join for the questions, I'll just would like to share that it appears we are faced with a very vital issue that has to be addressed as part of our risk management framework by any finance professional. And as you pointed out, it cannot be a one-stop solution for everyone. There has to be a continuous engagement. There is no off-the-shelf, product or technology that can prevent such large-scale penetrating attacks on cybersecurity front. So also, correct me if I'm wrong. The question of budget for this activity has to be created without any ROI, especially if we are in the business of creating intellectual property, and which has got a long runway and the potential to earn. So in that case, so we really cannot look at the thing. It has to be taken as an insurance. Am I right? Or you can, this is what I would like to
add this
understand.
that we as a finance professional always look at ROI. So in cybersecurity, the ROI is really good because what you are investing, you're gonna save much more than that. Imagine one cyber attack can cost so much to the company. And if I'm investing, let's say, I'm just giving a example that if I'm investing, say, $100, if I'm saving $500, which I could have lost because of an attack, I certainly see ROI in here. So we finance people cannot live without ROI, and there is absolute good ROI in cybersecurity.
I agree, but I mean, what I meant was that you do not have a return, but you prevent a disaster, and in that
Notional.
way, it is akin to an insurance. So it's insurance. You do it so that you save yourself from a big trouble, is what I could understand from your presentation today. So, any of the participants, I invite them to. There's a question from Vineet. He's got not just a website. Can the app also of a multinational organization be hacked? Example, yes. Citibank.
So to answer your question, it is very, very common. In fact, it has happened to State Bank of India on more than one occasion. The YONO app, which they use, is being hacked. And it has happened to lot of big bank, not just in India, but across the world. It's just that in banking case, we don't hear these cases very frequently in media because it's very sensitive. And each time these kind of attack happens, it impacts the confidence of customer a lot. But yes, it's very frequent and it attacks banks more than anything else.
So how we as consumers, prevent getting affected by this in a negative? Is there any way we can take some steps, or what kind of precautions will help us?
So frankly speaking, straightforward answer to this question, because it entirely depends as to how smart is the hacker. But I'll just give you one quick example that most of the time our kids download the app related to games, correct? And most of the gaming apps these days ask the access on your pictures and
Oh,
contacts. Now, even if I just use a layman's logic and I say, why the gaming app wants to see my pictures? What are they going to do with this? But on Android, most of the time, if you will not say yes, you may not be able to install that app. And the
okay.
kids do not understand. They have to just click yes, yes, yes. Risk. So if I'm letting the window open of my house and a stranger comes in, how will I protect my entire house from a stranger? I said contact yes, pictures yes. Stranger has already entered in my phone. How will you protect the rest of the information? These days, most of these apps could come from Russia or sometime from China with a lot of malicious codes. And trust me, guys, the Apple, Google, they do not take any responsibility of it. It's written in their policy very clearly that you are responsible for it. We are not. We are just a marketplace. So just because I have downloaded an app from iStore, it doesn't mean anything. I should be protecting myself.
Any other questions, friends? It's getting late. So if you have any questions, you can post or you can call out now.
No worries. So guys, if you do not have a question at this moment, we can always stay in touch. And as me and Arun were discussing some time back, that this is a field where the more we talk, the lesser it is. So if you guys like this session and if you think you want to know more into it, we can always design more practical sessions in future, which will not just talk about case studies and theory the way we did today, since it was just a first session. We can have more practical tools for you as to how should you do it. Today we just said you should do it. The second question comes is how. So if you want to have answer of that how, probably we can always jointly design those kind of workshops or sessions for you, of course basis your feedback. And as I said in the beginning, I'm no expert, I'm also
Oh,
learning. With your
yeah.
input, maybe we can refine it.
Friends, Ms. Kanwaljeet has been very kind enough to spare a valuable time, and I can know how important her time is. She is consulting a lot of companies, and then she has been guiding senior professionals in the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, and then she has been addressing several of their sessions. So it's very valuable that she had spent her time with us today and shared insights in a broad, I would say, a leading manner. I look forward to have another session by her to detail more on to the practical rollout aspects. And you're also free to approach her as she's a practicing consultant. You can approach her in a mail ID and phone number, which she has shared, and it is available at the FING website, and it will also be circulated along with the slide deck to you after at the end.
Sorry, I'm just taking you short. So
Yeah.
I'm absolutely open connecting on LinkedIn as well as mail. Phone number is something is just for your personal consumption.
Yeah, I think